I'm delighted now to introduce Ralph. Ralph is a physician. He's retired. He was in general practice for 34 years. And since his retirement and before, he has been committed to social justice work, advocating for civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and equality in healthcare. He's been writing with his partner Jan Healy a monthly web page called Conversations on Race, and we've been publishing connections to that in our weekly CRT newsletter. And I asked Ralph if he would say a little bit about his work and how he came to be interested in it and what his personal connection is to it as a Jew. So, good evening, Ralph. Hello, welcome, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to read this, if you don't mind. I was honored when Rabbi Shire asked me to speak of my experiences as a social justice activist. I never really thought of myself in that way, but if I am, it is a result of a mishmash of many experiences of my life of privilege. My mother's family was well established in the New York Jewish community. My father was raised in Jewish Harlem by a widowed mother before attending college and law school and then taking a position in the Roosevelt's administration. In 1947, my family moved from D.C. to northern Westchester. And although we were one of only a few Jewish families in the community, my parents raised me to know that I was a Jew. Neither parent was religious, but both imparted Jewish values to me and the importance of taking pride in my Jewish heritage. There are two childhood experiences in particular that planted the seeds of my father's humanism and Jewish values in me, and I believe started me on my journey to social justice. One was the lessons of tzedakah that I learned from the Christmases I had as a child. Christmas had been a tradition in my mother's established Jewish home, and she in turn made Christmas a tradition with us. I fondly remember it as a time of exchanging gifts, but even more, I remember it as a time when I learned the moral obligation to help those who had less. At the end of the day of excitement, Dad would come to my brother, sister, and me and instruct us to select one gift, one that we had strongly wished for and hoped for, to give to an orphan in the nearby Jewish orphanage. The other experience was the African-American couple whom my parents had employed as a cook and gardener. At 5 or 6, looking out the window of my home, I was confused and frightened seeing a black couple, strangers, walk down our driveway to the front door. I'd never seen a black person, but from then until I left home for boarding school at 13, I came to love and respect them, and their thoughts are with me still. Helen taught me how to bake biscuits and allowed me to lick the spoon and bowl after she baked her special chocolate chip cookies. And Corbin taught me to plant corn and tomatoes and weed the garden, and they taught me so much more. In September 1957, following my bar mitzvah the previous March, I departed for 4 years at boarding school, and there I was the stranger. Beginning with the Merchant of Venice, my classmates schooled me in verbal bullying, while the headmaster and dean exemplified for me the injustices and consequences of bigotry. Feeling as an outsider, I identified with other outsiders, in particular those who spoke for civil rights. In May 1961, weeks prior to my graduation, I recall sitting in my dormitory room staring at the front page of the New York Times, a Greyhound bus in flames on the side of an Alabama highway. I felt part of the black and white freedom riders being beaten by state troopers as they escaped the flames. It was where racism and bigotry led. And these images, combined with my experiences of the anti-Semitic bigotry, brought me further along the path of social justice. And I believe it was then that I, as a human, as a Jew, unconsciously committed to doing work against such inhumanity. Entering college, I thought I might major in history, possibly following my father into law, but I chose pre-med instead, but knew very little of becoming a physician. Science occupied me in the classroom, but outside, on the corner of 116th Street and Broadway, current events became the classroom. James Meredith integrating the University of Mississippi, bombs in the 16th Street Church, fire hoses and police dogs in Birmingham, Medgar Evers assassination, Martin Luther King on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Americans daily protesting for equality. In 1965, the year I graduated, was the year Medicare and Medicaid dominated the news. Reading and listening, I understood race, economics, geography, politics affected one's health as much as blood pressure, cholesterol, and cancer. And I began to rethink sickness and how one becomes ill and what could limit a recovery. I saw doctoring as a social activism, as a means to address not only the physical ills, but also the social, psychological, and economic factors contributing to poor health. Medical school and a medical career could carry me further on my path to justice. But quickly I learned the focus of medical school was narrow. Factors beyond biology, pathology, and pharmacology were rarely discussed. The hospital corridors were congested with patients on benches waiting to be seen for care that they could not afford. Families lived for days in their cars parked on the streets outside of the hospital, hoping to be treated. The hospital had other priorities. Medicine begins and stops at the hospital door, was the unspoken message. But this limited view of the profession I was entering provoked me to do more. Sponsored by two young faculty and several of my classmates, I organized a student-run free clinic supervised by medical student faculties in the Pruitt-Igoe Project of St. Louis, and we opened the door with free polio vaccines. In my third year medical school, I met Miriam, a first-year medical student, who became my wife. Her parents, Sally and Joe, over the 40 years I knew them, gave me caution to my social activism journey. They had grown up in Lodz, lived through the Lodz ghetto, and were liberated from Auschwitz. Bigotry taken to the extreme was their unspoken lesson. Their injuries never healed and have been passed to my generations. And upon completing medical training, I started a family, opened an internal medicine practice, taught medical students, and continued advocating for equality and health care, spoke out against unacknowledged racism, and for recognition of the civil rights for gay, lesbian, and transgendered communities. I participated in the boards of Greater Boston PFLAG in the Human Rights Campaign and GLAD Law. And then before retiring in 2014, I volunteered at one-day free medical clinics in Little Rock, Kansas City, Atlanta, Hartford, D.C., New Orleans, and Dallas, sponsored by Advocates for Obamacare to serve people without health insurance. And each day we saw 1,000 patients who had no health insurance. In 2020, I met Jan Healy at Bali, and since then together we have continued on this path of social justice, writing in the monthly pages of our website, Conversations on Race. For the past 2 years, Jill Silverstein has invited us to share our website with CRT. Initially, our focus was on the Black experience, the racism they face, as well as the contributions they have made. But since Trump's inauguration, his administration not only has harmed Black Americans, but other minorities as well. Presently, his biggest target is the LGBTQ communities, laser focusing on transgender community. And because issues faced by the LGBTQ community and Black communities are rooted in bigotry and intersect underneath the target umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the content of our website now encompasses both trans and African American communities. I plan to stay on this journey because there's so much more to do, and I look forward to the day of no kings. Thank you much, and if there's time, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Wow, that's really amazing. What a story of the 60s, the 70s, and onwards to today. You're a gibor, as we would say in Hebrew, a social justice hero. I think in English that might be translated as warrior, which might be the right phrase as well. If anyone has a simple question for Ralph or a comment, be delighted to take it. Jennifer, sorry I interrupted you. Did you want to say something?
I was just leaving a message for Ralph, but what I was writing to him was, with all the inequities, the miseries in the world now, where are you placing most of your energy at this point?
That's a good question. I think I'm placing most of my energy in the injustices inflicted on the trans community. There's so many threads of what's happening to them that go back to the 1930s in Germany that it just underscores to me, the need to speak out speak out and to educate people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. A very vulnerable population at the moment, very much in need of all of our support. We want a copy of that, if you will, for BK to put up on the website, and make sure that people know about this wonderful journey of yours. It's obviously over a lifetime, and your parents had a great influence on you to make this a lifetime of real achievement. We say in Hebrew, it's time this is a tree of life, and we equate that to the Torah. But it's also the story of our lives as well. We are a tree, and we grow and we blossom and we branch out, and we spread our seeds to all around us. So thank you, Ralph, so much for sharing that with us. We're absolutely delighted to participate in disseminating your website, and we will continue to do that.